Hello, everybody. Ed Bowers here, and this is a replay with regards to the online summit that we're hosting on the 6th of April. Unfortunately, John Archibald and Eric LeGrand are here, but they can't make it to the live event. So this is going to be involved in the event on the day. I really do hope you enjoy it. They're going to talk about their sports career journey. I'm particularly interested with regards to Eric's story. I've had the privilege of knowing John, but this is all about inspiration. This is all about looking at sport from a different perspective. So if you have any learning lessons within the next hour or so, just put hashtag Spirit of Sport, share your learning lesson. And I really do hope this supports you today. I'm buzzing for this interview. I'm really looking forward to it. And John, I'm going to start with you. Could you just explain to the live audience who you are and what you specialize in the sports industry, with a little glimpse of your sports career journey at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the CEO of a digital marketing firm that I founded originally in 2008 called Resolution Promotions. My sports journey started fresh out of college. I've kind of traveled through different areas here in the States, and eventually landed back in New Jersey, where I more aggressively started to pursue my sports career. My background comes mostly in PR. And, anyone who knows, 10, 12 years ago, digital marketing was a term that no one really knew. So that originally started as PR and communications, delved into, now becoming more specialized into digital marketing. So everything online, website, video, SEO related. Along the way, within my journey, I've worked with, various different clientele in a lot of different sports, from, ranging from, soccer, as we call it over here. Soccer to football, boxing, kind of you name it. I've kind of dabbled, touched, or had extensive experience in many different sports along the way.
Awesome. And Eric, could you just provide a snapshot of your inspiring journey?
Yeah, so my name is Eric LeGrand. I'm a former Rutgers football player. Football as an American football. And I had a paralyzing injury on October 16, 2010 that, the doctors did not think was going to go well for me. They thought I would pretty much be in a vegetated state for the rest of my life. But, through the grace of God and my hard work and determination, I've been able to overcome a lot of obstacles. I did fracture my C3, C4 vertebrae, which had at the time left me paralyzed from the shoulders down. I was on a ventilator. I was on feeding tubes, and things did not look good for me. But I've been able to overcome and overachieve so many different goals in my life, and been able to set up a nice career for myself, with whether it's motivational speaking, running my foundation, Team LeGrand of the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation, sports broadcasting, or being an entrepreneur with my guy John over here.
Awesome. We're going to talk about this in a lot more detail. And just to give a little insight, I actually interviewed John on my podcast show, and he shared a little insight of Eric's injury and how it inspired him. And John, I'm just going to ask you out of interest, now in today's current global society right now, because everything with regards to the sports world has sort of come to a close of this situation, how important is it to look at sport and development and peace from this perspective, in your opinion?
It's extremely important. I think one of the things this has done is, we all know the power, the impact of sport, especially on a global basis. And the last thing I think any of us would have thought is that the world of sports could actually come to a halt. It could actually pause worldwide, which has really kind of had us kind of step back and take a look at reflection. And, one of the things that athletes have seen upon themselves now is really the influence and power that they have, as the sports world is halted. The messaging that they put out there, the global unity that we have to show, something as, I say simplistic when I say this, but it's much more than that. Stay at home. And, the various different things the CDC is telling us to say now, those athletes in the world of sport has the attention of people that could really spread that messaging. And so at this very particular moment in time, of course, the focus is right there within and on, COVID-19 and really trying to get, humanity back to a position of health where we can function once again. And I think athletes always know the type of global impact they have. And Eric can speak more to this. He's someone that, I tell everybody, when Eric speaks, the world listens. So he could definitely give a personal touch on, having that voice and the power that comes with it. It's, as an athlete, as someone who's well known, what happens is you give up a lot of your privacy in terms of, you have to be on your P's and Q's, something that someone like I, might do and slip up, it won't be found out because quite honestly, people don't care, but if you're an athlete and you're someone that the world is monitoring closely, any of those kind of things happen, people are paying attention. But on the other side of it, you have that type of influence that when you speak, people listen.
Eric, I'm going to jump you in right now because I want to hear this voice of yours. Like, how important is it for athletes to look at it from this perspective, as much as they probably suffering with not training, but they can be role models of how they act, let's say, on social media?
Yeah, this is where athletes actually have an opportunity to check into another realm of what they want to do in life besides playing their sport, because obviously you can't do that right now. So how can I still have a big impact on my fan and my followers and my fans and my followers if I am not playing my sports? What can I do? Can I start a podcast? Can I make funny videos? Can I, start a business up that's going to launch once everything gets back into order and to play? These are really when we really see how many different things athletes can do in this world, because obviously right now we're not watching them make millions of dollars playing their sports because there is no sports anywhere. So what else can I be? And that it challenged that kind of look on an athlete's only an athlete, they can't do anything else. It really now starts to put things, okay, I'm not only an athlete, I can do this, this, and that, or I can do this, this, and that, which is very cool to see now. So some of these people getting creative with some more ideas on what they want to do to impact the world in another way than just going out there and playing their sport.
And just relating to your injury, the one thing I admire from your book, as I said to you beforehand, I've read, you were overwhelmed with the support you had after, your injury, just with the Believe message. So how important have you learned from that lesson with regards to the power of your voice? Because I know in the book you were overwhelmed, and just from that reflection from your story, for other athletes to learn from your lessons, what would you give to those athletes of building their voice, getting confidence, of building fans in this sort of crisis from an anxiety point of view, from people staying at home?
People are always going to remember how you make them feel. That cliche saying, people will forget what you say or what you do, but it's how you make them feel. And I know when this injury happened to me, all these people that rallied around me and wanted to be by my side because of the impression that I left on them from when I was growing up in my neighborhood all the way to when I got to high school, then to college. The impression that I left on them made them feel good. And now these times when these athletes are sitting at home and they have access still to millions upon millions of people because of social media nowadays, the impact that they leave on them through this will be something special. If LeBron James continues to do his Taco Tuesdays, like everyone knows him for his Taco Tuesdays, that's just something that, you'll remember him for. Other athletes have that opportunity now because so many people are just sitting there on their phones and their tablets, just looking for stuff. How you make them feel, or if you come up with something very creative that takes their mind away from everything that's going on in the outside world, it can really make a huge impression on their life and how they follow you the rest of their way.
John, do you want to add to that from like a digital marketing perspective?
Yeah, and kind of to Eric's point, I know that it can kind of be an area that some people can feel a certain way about, but sports, when the world is normal, serve as a distraction. The athletes, and Eric can say this more than anyone, regardless of what you have going on in the world as an athlete, as soon as you step across that line, everything changes. That's your world. That's your piece. And as fans of sports, we kind of have the same reaction too. It serves as our distraction where, when we're watching a game, whatever the sport may be, that 2, 3 hour, 4 hours, we're just kind of dialed into that, regardless of what might be going on outside of us. We're able to put our attention somewhere else, and puts us at a different form of peace. And I think right now, especially, like, we need that form of distraction. There's a well-known radio host over here that Eric does the Rutgers play-by-play for football by the name of Chris Carlin, who Eric also hooked me up. And one of the things that we talk about, right now, because his show's going back on, and when there's no sports going on, it's a little difficult to be a sports radio host. And, one of the things he tells me is, what I'm trying to do right now is give people that distraction that they really need. We're sitting here all cooped up, going stir crazy, and we just need something to distract us from the fact that we can't get out of the house, or that this and that is going on. So, to that point, I think it's really important that, people understand that we need those types of distractions in the world. And for LeBron, to still continue on with Taco Tuesday, we need that. The world does need to continue on, going forward. We all have to show the urgency and the emergency of what's going on with COVID-19, but we also need to, as a humanity, be able to continue to live and have those types of distractions that a lot of athletes provide. And, obviously with the world of digital marketing and online and digital, that's where everyone's going to get their distractions now. So, we go there to get our information about what's happening, to keep ourselves informed. And then we're also looking for some things that might make us laugh, or some things that, we can reflect back on. I think a lot of different sports organizations and people have done a great job of, it's like an ongoing Throwback Thursday now. We're able to reflect back on a lot of things, and we're reconnecting with old feelings now of, oh, that was great. And you're able to kind of relive those things, because when the sports world's so crazy, and again, Eric could speak, someone played at a high level in athletics, sometimes you don't get a chance to step back and really reflect. You have those few minutes when a moment might happen where some success happens, or even win a championship, but you kind of, it's next foot forward. Can't enjoy it as an athlete. That's kind of what we teach ourselves. You got to go forward. It's always the next thing. So from the, that whole thing, the distraction is great, and digital provides us the platform for it.
Absolutely. And there's one theme we have with this whole summit is all about education and upskilling. As much as we all need the time to chill out and watch TV, which is quite an easy distraction now, the one thing we have is we want to talk about one skill set. And I'll start with you, Eric. What is one skill set that has supported you with your life development, out of interest?
The way that I'm able to relate with all people, all different types of walks of life that people come from. My biggest asset I have on my side is being able to relate to everyone. Whether you're a CEO of a company or a janitor of a company, whether if you're white, black, Asian, Spanish, I can relate to all types of people, and that helps you in your business, because whatever type of business you're in, if you have to deal with consumers as people, you're going to have to be able to relate to them, or hear all different stories and hear all different backgrounds and, beliefs and things of that nature. So being able to hear a person out, understand where they're coming from, not judge a person off of this one does it this way, or this one does something that way, that's been my biggest factor. And that's why people, when they talk to me, I feel like they get so comfortable around me, because I don't judge anybody. I'm an open book with you. We could have a great conversation on your life, and I'm always willing to learn more about somebody else's life. So I would say being able to relate to people has been my biggest asset in my life and my business.
Out of interest, Eric, just to follow up on what you've just said with connecting with people, would you mind just sharing some tips in how people can improve their communication through social media, for example? What tips would you give?
I'll do social media. So if you notice on my Instagram post, when I post something and people comment, I try to write back to everybody. It makes you give that, when you click into your Instagram and all of a sudden you see somebody wrote back to you, it's like, whoa, that person took the time to respond to me. I've learned that from Ed Milet, and how busy he is, trying to just take that time to connect with people, not just, just blow people off and let them put a bunch of comments on your page, but actually connect with them and see, how you can better their lives, or if you really value a comment that someone says, make sure you let them know. And if you continue conversations offline or in a direct DM, things of that nature. So being able to go on my social media and actually respond back to people, I think people get a good kick out of that.
Absolutely. It's like a digital thank you note. John, I'm going to pass it on to you. What is one skill set that has supported you throughout your fascinating career journey, out of interest?
Yeah, I would say humility. And that's kind of plays off almost what Eric was saying there. But for me, it's been humility to the component of, since I was young and I was coming up, I knew I had, a certain skill set. I felt, I knew that, with my internal motivation and drive, that I could really get somewhere. But by no means did I ever expect anything to be handed to me. I knew the work had to be put in. And when I say humility, I've and anyone who's listened to the podcast that Ed and I did together, there was a lot of ups and downs, and continues to be peaks, valleys, ditches, underground elevators in my journey that's kind of gone all over the place. And for me, always staying humble to the fact of, if you get to a certain level, you're no better than any next person. You never know who you're talking to, because the way I kind of look at it is, I was that person at one point in time that just needed a break, just needed some experience, and was doing everything in my power to get it. And I think sometimes people get to a certain level and they might be I could be talking to that version of me 12 years ago. And if I don't approach that person with humility and talk to that person, hey, that was me at that time. And if, more people, if, someone in my position would have taken the time to actually, provide guidance and, be somewhat of a mentor, maybe I wouldn't have had so many dips and lows and everything. And with humility also comes the fact that it can all be taken away at any moment, and this time that we're in right now has served as a great reminder of that, because when you're a CEO of a company and, coming into this year and, I was on the pace to blow away any previous years, and things are going forward. And Eric and I, are working on various different business initiatives that were, going to be some really great things. They got put on hold, and when it's hard to function as someone that works direct with small businesses or athletes, whatever the case may be, when their small businesses federally being told you cannot operate. So how do you work with a small business and try to market them and do certain things when they literally can't even open their doors right now? Again, back to the whole, we never thought sports could stop, just come to a halt. Whoever thought the world of business could just come to a halt? So, that humility of knowing that it can all be taken away at any point in time. And what that also does is really it intensifies that motivation and that hunger to always get better. And another thing that Eric said that really resonated with me was, I know I can always get better. I love to have conversations with, and I love any conversation we have, even if it's just a few messages on WhatsApp, because, I feel like conversations with good people are always going to make you better. And it's that positive energy that it creates. And so the humility that I've kind of approached every single day of my life with, knowing it can be taken away, and just reminding myself constantly, when I thought I was getting somewhere and getting knocked off my feet, and it's getting to a point where I had to start over again. At any point in time, that can happen once again. It's happened to me multiple times, and I've had to dig myself back out. So I will always can go at that type of approach. And, like what Eric was saying, showing the humility of, regardless who you're talking to, you treat them with the same amount of respect, and anyone who's met Eric's mom knows what kind of tremendous person he has, who's guided him through his, his life. And my parents as well. I tell people all the time, one of the best decisions I ever made was I picked the best parents, so the things work out in that nature.
Absolutely, John. Just to elevate what you've just said from a sort of strategy perspective, for somebody listening going, okay, how can I put that humanity into it now? Like, what tips would you give? I know on my podcast you gave some great examples of you back working in a cubicle and you're like, this is not for me. I want to get back working at clubs like Ironman, for example. Could you just give some tips in how to just stay humble during this period and what you've just explained just now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think always being realistic with yourself. What tends to happen with a lot of people is that you taste a little bit of success. And, as they always say, success reveals the real person, as opposed to, you becoming a different version of yourself. The people who are able to handle success the best are the people that are exactly the same with it as they are without it. One of the things I always pride myself on is that, I can go back to someone I maybe haven't seen in 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case may be. And we pick up a conversation like it just ended yesterday, because, while I evolve, certainly, I always stay true to myself, and it's when you find that inner version of yourself that you're comfortable with, and that's the real version of yourself. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You never have to change, because you're not lying to yourself. They say a liar always gets caught because he ends up forgetting which lies he told. But if you're always true to yourself, you're going to be the same person regardless of who you're talking to. So when you meet someone for the first time, because you are true to yourself, you come across as a different type of person because you're true to who you are and your inner being, that you're real. So new relationships that you have are always great. And kind of something back to what Eric was saying is that, and I know Eric understands it, but it's, someone with Eric's level of influence, everyone knows who Eric is. that when Eric responds back to every single person that comments on him, and if you think he's exaggerating, go look at any of his posts. He responds to everyone. It's incredible. And it's almost instantaneous that he's able to do it. He really dedicates to that time. And as you think of someone, if someone responds to you on social media that's at a high level of influence, there's something that happens internally. It feels good, and what that's doing is it's now creating even more positivity that a person has towards Eric that they already had. And it's just intensifying the way they feel about him, and because he's taking the time to prove to someone that they matter. So those types of approaches, being real to yourself, you'll always be humble and you'll always have humility because you're being your true person.
Eric, how do you want to add to that with regards to people of how they sort of process personal success, if that makes sense of what John was just mentioning?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to stay humble and stay true to who you are. How you have to set core values in your life. When you have core values in your life that you say, no matter how good I get at this, I'm always going to revert back to where I was before, or stay. My core values I always talk about, one was always being humble. I was humble at a young age. I'm committed. I was always taught commitment at a young age. And love, family and love. Love is sacrifice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice certain things for a bigger cause. Sometimes, as in John, he has a new baby born, but he still works till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning because he knows that he has to sacrifice some of that to get to where he wants to go. So having core values allows you to always come back to, okay, this is where I built my foundation on. This is where I was able to get to where I am now with the success that you're, starting to see in your life. If you always revert back to your core values, it will keep you grounded and keep you motivated and keep you driven. And especially if you want to start branching off and doing other things. If you found a success kit, doing it this way, so you want to start off another business and you're starting from the ground up again, use those same core values and build it that way.
Just with regards to those core values, I said to John when I read the book, there's one thing that inspired me was you had a mantra from one of your coaches called keep chopping. Would you mind just explain that mantra and how people can apply it to their lives right now? Because I think this is quite powerful.
Sure. I'll tell you the story that our coach told us. This was when I was in college. Our motto, our saying was keep chopping. And he said, imagine being stuck in the forest. It's dark. You can't see anything in front of you but a tree, and you have an axe in your hand. He said, you look at that tree, you focus with a laser focus on that tree in one spot, and you hit it. And the first time you hit it, it doesn't really do much damage. But then you start hitting it over and over and over again on that same spot. A little bit later, you start hearing the tree starts to go crack. And then all of a sudden, boom, that tree falls down and a little bit of light comes through. You take a deep breath, you look up, you say, okay, enjoy for that moment, and then boom, on to the next tree. Bop, bop, the same exact thing until enough trees are knocked down, and then you really see that light to the end of the tunnel. And that was our saying, keep chopping. And you put that into your life. When all these things are in front of you, put your focus on what has to get done, and boom, 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 hit it on that same spot every time. And like I said, the first time you hit it, it may not do much damage, but if you keep on hitting it and hitting it in that one spot, eventually that tree's going to fall down, and that's just with obstacles in life as well.
Absolutely. John, how do you want to add to that about having a motto like keep chopping?
Yeah, it's one of the things a story I love to tell, relative to Eric. So Eric and I known each other for, number of years. I, worked on the PR communications with Sky Blue FC, which is a national women's soccer league club over here. And Eric has always been a longtime supporter, of the U.S. women's national team and the game of women's soccer. And we'd have Eric come out at least once a year. He'd always come out additional games and serve as an honorary captain. And we actually always got points when Eric was the captain too. So that was the other thing that was a little selfish of us to bring him out. But so Eric and I had known each other. But then, I guess it's been 2 years ago, Eric, we sat down, had a conversation and, started talking a little bit business. I was in a position where I was segueing, away from team sports altogether and just focusing entirely on operating my company. And so at that time, Eric and I, started having discussions about various different business endeavors, and it just continually evolved because we had such a good rapport together that it was started as one thing and then it evolved to other things. And it's like, hey, we should do this and other things, and continues to evolve. That's one of the things I love about being around Eric, because there's always laser focus on getting done what's going done. When that's in check, hey, we could take this to another level. Let's bring this into it now when the time is appropriate. And sometimes Eric has to bring me in. Sometimes I come with a little bit crazy ideas, and he's like, that might be in the future, but we have things we got to handle today. I'm like, okay. And it's kind of an ongoing joke, but from the bottom of my heart, something I will say with Eric is that, and his mom says this all the time, is that, or not all, she said it before, I'll say, because she's much like him and doesn't really, pat themselves in the back. But she says with Eric, since the injury happened, which has now almost been 10 years, she can count on one hand how many times he's complained. I want people to think about that, because, here we are, in our normal lives, most people, we walk around and we go around and any little thing happens, oh, poor, woe is me. It's, this has happened to me, that's happened to me, and this is unfair. And, getting around Eric, it's like, and anyone, and I'm sure you're feeling it from the thousands of miles away, but when you get into a room with Eric, it's immediate. He has you, and you just sense this incredible positive aura that surrounds him. And when you speak to Eric, and Eric could be mad at the world right now. This is a guy who was going to the NFL, the highest level of the most popular sport in our country, and that was taken from him. And what he's gone through in that whole process of it, he could be mad at the world right now, and he'd have every right to be. None of us would blame him for it. And Eric takes an approach where he says what happened to him, first, it happened to him because he's strong enough to deal with it. And second of all, he considers it a blessing because it's created a bigger platform for him than even if he was a professional athlete to spread his message of positivity. Now, I want people to think about what I just said. This is how Eric operates. And so for me, when I'm around Eric, when we started to, I started to be around him more often. And, as we engaged more in the business endeavors, I literally I sat back, and I'm someone that tries to never complain, but I said, you know what? I will never complain again. If anyone ever hears me complaining about anything, you have every right and reason to go upside my head and put me back in my place, because I have no right. And that's the kind of thing he creates, because when you're around Eric, and the reason why everyone loves Eric and they continue to always want to be around Eric and do what they can for Eric is because you just want his positivity. It's like I tell people, Eric's worth the price of admission. Anytime you're able to be around him for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds is great, because it makes you a better human, because you see his perspective and the way he operates, and you start looking at yourself and you're like, you know what, I could be better here. These are things I could do better. If my approach was more positive here, if I dealt with this person better here, and he subconsciously, I don't even know if he knows he's doing it on purpose. He's not doing it on purpose. But that's the way he almost changes you and makes you continually evolve. And that's why I tell people, working with Eric is great because we're doing some tremendous things together, but it's the whole other side of that equation of becoming such a better human just by being around him. That's the thing I love most about working with Eric.
Eric, before I'm going to give you the mic.
Those kind of words, Bob.
You know how we do it.
Eric, before I'm going to give you the mic, I've got goosebumps. I said this to John multiple times of asking you to come on this summit, and actually just to do this with you, I'm feeling the vibes. And I just would love you to, look, we've been jamming for 30 minutes and it feels only like 3. I'll just love you to jam on the mic, be yourself, and just explain to people what it really means not to give up. And you know what I mean when I say that, because we use it too often in our global society. Don't give up, don't give up. But for you, I've seen your videos, I've read your book, you look at not giving up and believing in a different perspective. So if it's cool with you, my man, I've enjoyed this conversation so much, but could you just jam on the mic and just share to the world on how not to give up, especially in this current time we're living in?
Well, people need to learn how to value themselves first. A lot of people say, oh, I'm nobody, or I can't do this, or it doesn't really mean anything if I'm not around anymore. Think about the people that affects around you. I realized after my injury, the people that it affects, of course, my mom, my family, my teammates, my friends, and then all these people that were reaching out to me, wishing me well. I felt like this was turned into a responsibility. And I've always been a person, I'm not going to let you down. And all these people are supporting me and wishing me well. And I'm like, you know what? This fight is bigger than just myself. It's bigger than just me. I have to fight because somebody may be going through some adversity in their life, and they need me for that source of inspiration. They see I'm pushing through, and if I can go against all odds and everything that's thrown my way and I can overcome it, why can't they overcome what they're going through in their life? And it makes you put things into perspective on how you view things, how you see things, and it makes you ultimately become a better person. And I lean on stuff like that. And when I got to start seeing more people that had spinal cord injuries and how their life was flipped and turned upside down, it makes you also say, wow, I don't have it that bad. That person has it way off than I do. That person is going through so much more than I'm going through. And I live by something I always say, no matter how bad your situation may be, someone always has it worse than you. And when you think about that, it's the truth. You know, I may not be able to even control my phone right here, where it's farther away from my face, but there's someone that's stuck in their bed right now, can't even breathe on their own. You know, and it makes you realize, you know, things will get better. And everything that I do, I try to pour all my effort into it. And it's another definition I learned while I was at Rutgers that I'll leave you guys with. And it's a definition of success. And it's the peace of mind you get knowing you did everything you could to be the best you can be. I'll say it one more time. It's the peace of mind you get knowing you did everything you could to be the best you could be. If you know you gave it all, whenever it was on a business project, if it was helping your kids out on a homework assignment, if it was working on a foundation, whatever it is, if you know you gave it your all, you should look yourself in that mirror at night and say, you know what? I left it all out there on the table. And when you go put your head on that pillow, sleep at ease because you know you gave it your all and you're your own definition of success.
See what I mean, Ed?
Yeah. Look, I hope the people are watching the replay. I'm just grateful just to hear that. I really am, Eric. Look, if you've just heard that, hashtag Spirit of Sport, because this is what it's all about. John, how can people interact with you out of interest on social media during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal handles across the board, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, are all Res Sports. That's RESSPORTS. And my company, Resolution Promotions, you can find us online, respromos.com, RESPROMOS.com. And across social media for Res Promos is Res Promos. So Res Sports is my personal, Res Promos is the business.
Awesome. Eric, out of interest, how can people connect with you on social media?
My Twitter and Facebook, I'm at Eric LeGrand 52. That's EricLegrand 52 on Twitter and Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's just Eric LeGrand, EricLegrand, and a beautiful website that John built out for me, EricLegrand52.com, and also my YouTube channel, youtube.com/EricLegrand52. So all of that, and that's all my information.
Awesome. Well, everybody, that's it. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you, John and Eric. I really do hope you've enjoyed this, everybody. Like for me, I'm just speechless, to be honest. So all those links will be involved with regards to the summit. Also, I'd recommend reading this as well. It's honestly worth the read, especially now we're at home. You know, as much as I'm a big fan of just chilling out in the evenings and watching John's son be mini Rocky, but grab a book, you know, and find some time with some inspiration. But gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know how much I always enjoy our conversations. It's an honor and privilege to speak with you, obviously. And I'd say it to you every single time. But if you ever need me, you know where to find me, and I'm there for you.
I appreciate you having me on and John introducing me to Ed. And hope everyone gets a lot of value out of this. And shout out to all my London people, my England people. Love you guys.
Amazing. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, John and Eric.
Take care, everybody.